Okay, look, despite what some musos might say, having a complicated or unusual chord sequence doesn't necessarily equal a better song or even a particularly good song necessarily, but every now and then it can serve to really effectively convey a particular mood. And in my opinion, Blur's This Is a Low is one such song. So we're going to have a look at the chord sequence and find out what makes it so effective. Okay, settle in then, because we've got a little bit to get through. The song starts with this arpeggiated guitar intro that goes a little like this. And already I have a few things to say. You might feel instinctively listening to that, it's kind of a chord sequence without a home. We haven't really established where the root is as of yet. We're definitely building towards something. You can feel this kind of climb upwards, and we're going to need to resolve somewhere soon. And it does. If we were following traditional diatonic harmony, you might subconsciously expect the resolve to come a little something like this. To a D major chord. Now, why do I say that? Because that chord sequence in the intro is essentially working its way up through a harmonised D major scale. We have the chords E minor, F sharp minor, G, and A, which are chords 2, 3, 4, and 5 in the D major scale. However, that is not what happens. What happens is this. We have an E major chord, which in terms of the chords that have come before it really comes out of left field. We still get a certain sense of resolve of having landed. This is reinforced as well with the bass and drums come in at this point, so we're pretty firmly establishing this as home base. But it's not quite as sunny as we might have expected had we gotten the perfect cadence going from the A major to the D major. It's still a resolve, but maybe slightly less sure of itself. Now, what happens then, after landing on the E chord, is the guitar plays this little figure. Which further complicates matters a little bit, because it doesn't feel like we're in E major as such. Because the guitar is playing this little riff that has the open D string in it. It then uses the G sharp as part of the E major chord, so we're getting a little bit of a mix of minor and major tonalities there. The D, in the context of E, is a minor seventh. The G sharp is a major third. So what we've actually ended up with is not the traditional E major scale harmony, but more like E mixolydian, which is exactly the same as a major scale, except that it has this minor seventh in it, which is a very typically bluesy kind of modal scale. So again, we're sort of in a little bit of a fog in terms of the harmonic content of this. We're not completely secure with either major or minor. And then the song progresses into the verse. So a bit more intrigue provided here by the verse. What is happening here is we are moving through the following chords. E, B minor, A, C sharp minor, C, B minor, and then back to E. So initially, that E mixolydian tonal centre is being kept pretty consistent. The chords E, B minor, A, C sharp minor are all diatonic to E mixolydian. We can extract those chords from that scale. But this C major chord has a little bit of an arresting effect here. This chord is built off of the minor sixth above the root. A C is a minor sixth above E. And it is not in E major or E mixolydian. So it does register as a little bit of an outside chord. It's not completely without precedent, of course. That movement there from C major to B minor to E, in another life, another setting, that's kind of a traditional blues turnaround. Where we move from the chord built on the minor sixth degree of the scale straight down to the fifth. A similar thing happens, funnily enough, in End of a Century on the same album, where they're in G major. We get that little chromatic movement from the minor sixth degree to the fifth. However, neither of these songs really feel like Blur's take on a trad blues. I think it's more likely, if anywhere, they learned this chord sequence from David Bowie, who was a pretty consistent influence throughout their career, certainly Damon Albarn's career. And you can hear that kind of interval being used, a major chord going up a minor sixth, in The Man Who Sold the World, in Suffragette City, and quite a few others, particularly in his 70s era. So, we then progress to the chorus. So rather like the verse, the chorus is basically E mixolydian with a bit of a twist. We go from E to D and then back to E. Completely within traditional E mixolydian business there. Then we go to A minor, B minor, E. And here's where the ground feels a little bit wobbly again all of a sudden. Because as we will remember from the verse, if we're going to play an A chord within E mixolydian, we would traditionally expect it to be major. So the A minor comes in, climbing up to B minor, and then back to E. So where's that come from? Well, if you're up on your theory, you may remember that A minor is the relative minor of C. So it's kind of providing a similar harmonic function that the C did in the verse. It's kind of a twisted blues turnaround. But a lot moodier, because it's obviously a minor chord. It then continues D, E, then we do the A minor to B minor again. Then we go to our C major again. And then B minor. Before finally landing back on E. So that last section of the chorus it's kind of almost harmonically like we're doing the same thing twice. It's like an extended turnaround. where the mood keeps shifting from this darker minor, and then a little bit of sunshine appears with the major chord before we're brought back to E. So what makes this so effective? Well, in my opinion, you couldn't possibly write a better lyric for this piece of music, and you couldn't possibly write a better piece of music for this lyric, where the words convey this sense of an ever-present melancholy within yourself that you wrestle with and ultimately come to terms with. The music provides this kind of shifting sands feeling of an erratic mood, where sometimes in life you might expect a major chord and you get a minor chord, and vice versa. So the words and music combine beautifully to create this sense of a peaceful mood, but one that's unstable and ever-changing, a bit like the English weather. So there we go, a few thoughts on Blur's This Is a Low. Tell me, what are some of your favourite chord sequences, favourite Blur songs, etc. Thanks ever so much for watching though. If you would consider liking and subscribing, I would be very grateful, and I'll see you again very soon. Cheers.